The Cubs and Alex Bregman stories just continue. And now Jim Bowden saying that there's a chance that the Cubs could end up with the former Astros third baseman. We're going to talk about that. More about Luis Vázquez. Cubs sold him to the Baltimore Orioles, and the Orioles are probably going, man, I can't believe we just got a Gold Glove caliber shortstop for cash considerations. Couple of pitchers are signing minor league deals with the Cubs, including Brandon Hughes. You remember him, former Cub. And Nick Madrigal signs with a new team. We're going to talk about all that right here on the Cubs Baseball channel. Like, subscribe, thumbs up, all the things I ask you guys to do on a daily basis. You're not Cardinals fans. You know how to do all this. You're not White Sox fans. You're not scratching your heads. You know about this. So do those things. And we're brought to you by DraftKings. They make the show happen. Let's get this rolling. What do you say, gang? Welcome to the Cubs Baseball channel. Appreciate all of you guys hanging out here as we talk Cubs baseball on a daily basis. Sometimes more than once a day, but we're rolling right now. When's the last time you haven't gotten a show from us? I don't even know when. So, but you can thank DraftKings, and you can take advantage of our promo code right now, CBC, Cubs Baseball channel, $5 down, gets you $200 in bonus play. And with Super Bowl 59 coming, you're going to want to take advantage of that. We'll talk more about that coming up. Now, I have just not been a believer in this at all. But here's Jim Bowden saying the same thing that we keep hearing. And he says there's no question who the most aggressive teams are right now for the polar bear, Pete Alonso, and Alex Bregman. They are the Blue Jays wanting the polar bear, and the Cubs wanting Bregman, which could dampen the two from returning to their former teams. Could this happen? You know, what about the Red Sox offering a long-term contract for Bregman? Maybe Toronto in on that mix too. But to me, the Bregman stuff just continues for the Cubs, and you almost feel like maybe they are somehow trying to figure out a way to make this happen. Maybe you get this deal done, and then maybe you flip somebody else. Maybe you get Seiya Suzuki to give up his no trade clause, and then you trade him for the money. I don't know what the deal would be if the Cubs got Bregman. But what I do know is that the Astros have a problem. They traded the Cubs, and they got a third baseman, Isaac Paredes, who's a former All-Star. And they got a prospect third baseman in Cam Smith. So now you got two third basemen. And what do you do? Well, do you go and sign your old third baseman? Well, they've talked about that. And then the move would be move Paredes to second base. So now you're going to take an all-star third baseman. You're going to move him to second. And you're going to put your perennial all-star, who Jose Altuve, who might be the greatest Astro of all time, and you're going to put him in left field. Seems like a lot to me, right? And then you got to spend the money to do it. But you keep hearing that Bregman may be the heart and soul of the Astros team. Now, I think Altuve's the heart and soul of the team too, but you got more than one guy, and that's why they've been so successful for all those years. So we'll see. You know, you're not hearing the Cubs with Alonso a couple years ago at the deadline. You know, they were talking maybe there'd be a trade there, but the Cubs are probably satisfied with Michael Busch. His contract fits. He had a pretty good rookie year, but everything he's ever done has been successful. Is this the year that he turns it around and becomes a perennial star? There's a potential there for that. And the Cubs feel like he could even be a Gold Glove first baseman. So that's something else there too. So I don't think it's Alonso. I'm looking straight at Bregman, and I'm going, how are the Cubs hanging in there? But maybe they're playing the market. Maybe this is going to be another one of those deals where we look back and we're like, man, they held the market out long enough that it ended up playing in their favor. And if that's the case, and they end up with Bregman, then they would have a really good team. And some of you guys are going to be like, what about Matt Shaw? Look, I'm not discounting Matt Shaw. I'm just telling you, it takes a long time for some of these guys to adjust from being in the minor leagues to being in the big leagues. And we've seen it with a lot of players. They push these guys up through the system now. And so they don't have a lot of time to train, and I mean, like, it used to be where these guys would play years and years and years in the minor leagues. You're talking about a guy that was in college a couple of years ago. So he's had one full season of professional baseball. Now you want him to go and take over third base. Now he could do it. He's one of the top third base prospects, according to a lot of the guys. I don't even know if he's really a third baseman. I think he's more of a second baseman that can play some shortstop. And maybe that's why the Cubs felt like they could get rid of Luis Vázquez. So that's where I want to move next, right? I don't like this. I'm just going to tell you, I just don't. You got Vázquez as a young guy, and you brought him up through your system, and you developed him, and he supposedly knows your way of doing things. The guy hit. The guy's defensively, I think he's not much worse than Dansby Swanson, and Dansby's a Gold Glover. This guy's got the potential to be a Gold Glove player. And you gave him up because you went out and got John Birdie. Those utility guys are utility guys for a reason. Like they can play a little bit, but there's a ceiling on them. And the other part of it is that it feels desperate to me. Why invest all this money in these guys to bring them up through just to trade them for money? The Orioles got a really good player in Luis Vázquez, and a lot of you guys that know the Cubs know that. I'm curious myself to wonder what their scouting thinks. But remember, a lot of these teams, and the Cubs are one of them, are getting rid of a lot of scouts. So they may say, well, his analytics aren't that good, and that's why we want to get rid of him. His 270 isn't really that good. He's making plays, but the velocity on his throws to first isn't good enough. I think you either can play or you can't play. And I feel like this guy is we don't know exactly what he's going to be or what he's not going to be, because we only had 14 at bats in the big leagues. But the Cubs must feel like John Birdie's going to help them win now. And if they don't win now, they're all going to be fired. And I feel like that's why you would make this type of move, because long term, I don't know that this is a good move. Short term, yeah. I mean, look, you're going to get more out of John Birdie probably than you would of Luis Vázquez this season. So there it is. And I could be totally wrong, but I don't think I am. This whole offseason, which has been fun to watch, it reeks of desperation, and it should. Because there has to be a sense of urgency. Because if the Cubs come up 83 and 79 again, and they don't make the playoffs with a manager that's paid more than any other manager in baseball history, and a team that's outspending the rest of the teams in their division and losing to them, I'm sure, and you don't have contract extensions right now for your front office, I think that's a really good reason why you look around and say, hey, if we don't make it happen now. But a lot of this stuff that they're doing feels really hollow long term, right? I mean, you traded your first round pick for Kyle Tucker. What if you don't sign Kyle Tucker? Well, who cares, right? Well, I mean, you're going to care if Cam Smith turns into a great player, if Isaac Paredes ends up having an all-star type year. So Tucker better play well, and if he does, then are you going to go out and sign him, right? And they're not afraid to make these deals for 1 year guys. Ryan Presley, one of them. If we'll see what happens, what they do with Bregman. But hey, I get it. You know what? It's a win now business. And whether you like it or not, when your front office has a 1 year contract and they're trying to scratch and claw to save all their butts, this is what happens. And it could turn into a World Series championship. It could turn into an amazing run. So that's the way sports are. Sometimes you do your best work when you don't have any other options but to do your best work. All right, guys, let me tell you this, that the Super Bowl's coming up. I mentioned this in the open, and I want to remind you guys again right now that we appreciate DraftKings so much for being our first big sponsor here on the Cubs Baseball Channel. CBC Cubs Baseball Channel, $5 down, get you $200 in bonus bets. So take advantage of that and be part of what we're doing. Super Bowl 59 is right around the corner, and it's the perfect time to get in on the action with my partners at DraftKings Sportsbook. Right now, they're giving all new customers $200 in bonus bets instantly after betting just $5. This is your shot to make every last play a moment to be remembered. Don't wait. Download the DraftKings app now and sign up using the promo code CBC. The crown is yours. Stay in on all the action and use your $200 in bonus bets on DraftKings same-game parlays for a shot at even bigger payouts. Combine multiple bets together from the same game. Love the thrill of live betting? DraftKings has got you covered. Bet live on in-progress games right as they happen, making watching the game that much more exciting. If sports betting is not available in your state yet, don't worry. You can still join in on all the fun with DraftKings Daily Fantasy and have a shot to win cash prizes. Download the DraftKings app now. New customers use my promo code CBC and bet just $5 on any wager and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. That's promo code CBC only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Spring training is coming up. Remember, pitchers and catchers report February 9th, so it's early this year. The Cubs play in Japan against the Dodgers. Great way to get the season going, part of that gauntlet that the Cubs have in April. And if the Cubs end up with a bad April, it could cost them their entire season. So they really got to come out of the chute. You know, you can't make the playoffs in April, but you can be out of it in April. I mean, they're playing all the good teams right at the beginning, including the Dodgers to start things. So spring training invites going out. And what a lot of teams do, Cubs, one of them, is you go out and you give a guy a minor league deal and tell him, hey, you know what, there's a shot for you to make the team. And they did that with a couple of pitchers. One of them, a guy that we all know, Brandon Hughes. You remember Brandon Hughes. Came along, left-handed pitcher. Cubs converted him from a position player to a pitcher, got to the big leagues, and had some really good stuff, dealt with some arm injuries, but he's back on a minor league deal. So how exciting would it be? I'd love to see Hughes make the team, man. I really like him. I mean, 22 was his year, right? 3.12 ERA in 57 appearances, had 8 saves, and was the closer, remember, at the end of the year. He had some knee issues and had 17 appearances and struggled for the Diamondbacks in 24 and had that 8.15 ERA last season in 15 appearances. So you're hoping that he's healthy, and he's 29 years old. And so that to me makes him still relatively young, right? And we'll see what's going on, but he'll try to make the team. And I would love to see him make it. He's one of those guys you pull for. Now, the other guy is Brad Keller, and the Cubs love these kind of deals, right? Where they're looking for what I would call a diamond in the rough, right? So there's another non-roster invitation to spring training. Keller was originally selected in the Rule 5 draft by the Royals from the Diamondbacks, eventually got to the big leagues in 2018 with Kansas City. 3 seasons, you remember, he pitched 2018 to 2020 and had a 3.50 ERA in 78 appearances and even had 57 starts, right? So started to struggle in 21. He had a 5.39 ERA, 26 starts, and then eventually went from starting to the bullpen, was with the White Sox last year at the beginning of the season on a minor league contract, and was even with Boston, 11 appearances out of the bullpen, had a 5.84 ERA. So he's trying to find it again, and that's why you sign these guys, and they do. I mean, how many times have you seen one of these relievers get, kind of picked off the scrap heap? They're healthy somehow again. Maybe you get them to change throwing a certain pitch, work on something else. They change a little bit of their arsenal. They get some confidence. And then, boom, there you are. You got a guy in the late inning. So we'll find out. But Keller and Hughes, 2 guys that the Cubs are bringing into spring training. And then finally, old friend Nick Madrigal has agreed to terms with the Mets. Nick Madrigal, I'm going to tell you guys, I know a lot of people saw Madrigal and thought, man, this guy's not any good. He had that horrific injury with the White Sox and then, was traded while he was still rehabbing to the Cubs at the deadline. And he never really played up to me what he looked like when I saw him ascending through the minor leagues as a first-round pick of the White Sox. He was just a really good contact hitter that could guide the ball, a little bit of pop, but mostly a singles guy and a great singles guy. Then, he had the injury, and a lot of those balls, and maybe it's just the big league pitching too, but he just, he was like a slap hitter, and I don't know, he was an easy out to me. I mean, I thought that he was kind of a letdown from what his potential was. But 2023 had a good season for the Cubs in 92 games. He hit .263, a couple of homers, and 28 knocked in, played some third base, was pretty good over there. A decent utility guy. But if you would have seen him coming up before he had the injury with the White Sox, he had the potential to be kind of like a really good contact guy. And he could move a little bit, and I liked him a lot. But that's what happens in professional sports. You get injuries, and then you lose a little bit of it, and then you lose a little bit more of it, and eventually, you're not the same player again. So we wish him the best as he moves on, and we'll keep an eye on this Alex Bregman thing. I mean, could the Cubs pull off some kind of a deal and get Bregman? I mean, I know that they would desperately love to have him, because if you put him in this lineup, all of a sudden you make a deal for a Dylan Cease and you got a pretty darn good team. I mean, there are a couple of guys now, and I still think they could use a little bit of help in the back bullpen. And maybe it's one of these guys that they just signed that comes out of nowhere and has a heck of a spring training. But the pieces are there. They're putting them together, and they're putting together a team that is really interesting. Thanks for hanging out with us, guys. We will talk to you later. Hey, if the Cubs break some news, we'll jump on here live and do that. But please like, subscribe, thumbs up, and have a great day. Go Cubs.